Everyone, welcome back to Change Your Perspective, Change Your Awareness, Change Your Life. I am Dr. Michelina AF here, that felon doctor, here to bring you all sorts of perspective changing things and to help you overcome adversity, be your best self, transform, and ultimately get everything that you want, right? We love that. So when we are talking about adversity, we're talking about conflict. We're talking about the first out of 8 conflicts that we will see in our life. And this one, I would venture to say everybody has: person versus self conflict. Everybody has person versus themselves. Me versus me versus the man in the mirror, right? Michael Jackson. And we're seeing it a lot now. Taylor Swift just came out with Anti-Hero, and it's like, hey, I'm the problem. Like, we know, most of us know that we are our own problems. Now, you will find, I always say that accountability is what marks maturation. So what you are, for me, the minute you start taking accountability for things is the minute you're actually an adult. Other than that, if you're still in victim mode, if you're still blaming, if you're never at fault, you're never the problem, it's never you, it's always somebody else. Oh, well, they did that thing. If you can't be like, I did this, or, oh, okay, let me think about my part in that, you're still a child. Which is why we've got grown-ass men and women with the mentality of children, because there's no accountability. And I see it all the time. Literally all the time. It's like one of those things that I just like pick out like red against a black background. Like, it's just easy to see. And so sometimes it's hard to see in our lives when we're in victim mentality, right? It's like, well, I just want to explain like why, like my part, like I just want to explain, I just want to be understood. And it's like, stop. So person versus self conflict, it manifests in a lot of different ways in our lives. If your internal dialogue is inherently negative, if you're like, oh, why did I do that? I'm so stupid. You definitely have person versus self conflict, which again, we all do. Until you start talking to yourself with love, grace, forgiveness, you have person versus self. And what that looks like is, and again, I used to do this all the time. I'm always battling myself, always. And it looks different for everybody, but like I'm always battling myself. And so I expect myself to learn things very quickly. And I've given this example before, I think in one of my courses or something, where I expect myself to learn and understand pretty much instantaneously. Like I'm like getting a download, like I'm a computer, I'm a robot. And so when I was younger and I was playing the flute, it's practice, it's work to try to learn how to play the flute. And when I couldn't get it as quickly as I wanted to get it, I would like throw it against the wall. Or if I'm playing a game and I can't win, I'm chucking the controller, right? If I couldn't brush my hair, I'd throw the brush, right? Like temper tantrums all the time because things weren't happening as quickly as I wanted them to happen. And I'm not mad at anybody but myself. Like nobody, it has nothing to do with anybody else. That's a Michelina versus Michelina problem, right? All the time. So that is one of the ways in which I kind of battle myself. And even still to this day, I battle myself. Like when I was teaching myself the piano during COVID and I couldn't get something and I was getting frustrated, I was like, well, wait a minute, Michelina, rational mind here, wise mind here. I'm like, let me have some grace. Like I'm learning in a completely new skill, I'm learning completely new set of functioning. Like my left hand had to learn how to function differently, like all these things, right? So it's like, calm down, girl. Like you need to calm down. Taylor Swift again. I'm like, calm down. It's totally fine. Like you're doing great. And in that way, it's like adult Michelina is reassuring child Michelina that lives very much in here and demands excellence and perfection, right? And so if you're still talking to yourself in ways that are destructive or inherently negative, you have a person versus person conflict that is very present in your life, whether you realize it or not. Person versus person conflict can also manifest as like discipline and internal versus external locus of control. And what I say, when I say that, I mean this. If you're not able to show up for yourself because you want to show up for yourself, You might have a person versus person problem with yourself. And that is, I'm not enough. Like, for me all the time, I didn't care about myself enough to go to the gym or to cook for myself or to take care of myself. It's like, I'm just not that important. I don't care enough. And it's like, if you don't do this for yourself, ain't nobody doing it for you. So you're either going to neglect yourself or you're going to have to figure out how to get it done. Right? And so we do that a lot where it's so easy for us to show up for the kids or our husband or work or anything. But when it comes to showing up for ourselves, just to show up for ourselves, we're like, nah, I don't need to sleep. I don't need to shower. I don't need to eat. Women especially. But, we do this all the time. And that's a person versus person conflict. You have to get up in the morning, but you're like, I'm just going to sleep. That's a person versus person conflict. Like, that's the first voice is like, I don't need to get up. I'm not worth getting up at this time. I'm so comfortable. I want to sleep, right? It's like, no, you are worth getting up. Get up and get your shit together. Discipline. And we don't like the word discipline anymore. We don't like these words that I keep throwing at us. But person versus person conflict manifests in a lot of ways in our life. And so I talk a lot about different mentalities that don't serve us. And most of them are person versus person conflict. Entitlement mentality, victim mentality. I'll do another series on it later on in the month or next month. But we do this a lot where it's like, we don't see ourselves very clearly at all. And we don't know how to operate within ourselves. We're very bad at it. And I have been very bad at it, which is why I know that we're very bad at it. Like, I see it all the time. I see it all the time, literally all the time. And I'm constantly in my coaching and when I was teaching, like in any conversation I have pretty much ever for the most part, I'm like, well, why would you expect that to be different? It's like, oh, I'm so stupid. I should have known better. And I'm like, well, why though? Why should you have known better? Like, actually though. And they're like, well, cause I don't, and it's most of the time, if you did know better, you would do better. If you didn't know better, then you don't do better. You know what I mean? It's like, we don't give ourselves a lot of grace. And we don't see ourselves very clearly. And I'm not saying this is a license to sin, right? This isn't a license to just like gallivant and be an idiot. Like, this isn't a license to be reckless and harmful. This is a license to like show up in your humanity. Like, you're human, dude. You're gonna mess up. Like, you're gonna suck at things. You're going to be a little hurtful. You're going to do the best you can with what you got, and you're gonna fail sometimes. And did you learn? Then you're not failing. Okay, great. Love that. Let's move on. Right? So person versus person is a really tricky one because we are often our own worst enemies. And all the time, and this is really coming in vogue now, but all the time I'll say to people, like, if you wouldn't talk to somebody you love like that, don't talk to yourself like that. It's a simple concept and it's hard in practice. And it's like, so many times mothers I was like, would you ever say that to your child? And they're like, of course not. I was like, then what? Why are you saying it to you? And don't expect me to do it because I ain't gonna. You have to give yourself permission to be human. And that is hard. In the person versus person, we do not give ourselves permission to be human. And it's like, well, that's an unrealistic standard because it can't be anything else because all you are is human in this time and dispensation. So like, you got a flesh body, you're human. Yes, you have a spirit body, but right now you got a flesh body too. Like, can't ignore it. So person versus person conflict is the first one. It's an interesting one. It's one that we all need help with, that we all have. We can get more self-aware. We can get a higher self-concept. Like, there's so many things that we can do with the self. We can get better at introspection. We can get better at being fair about our strengths and our weaknesses. Like, we do not spend nearly enough time positively with the self. And we spend so much time with ourselves negatively. It's like we're never enough. Like, all the time. I see that literally all the time. So myself included. Now I show up to a space, I'm like, listen, I'm here, I'm enough. It's the best I got. I'm showing up the best I can show up. I'm here. So best I can show up, I got you. Some days that's 150%. Some days that's 50%. I saw something that was like, if you give 50% on a day, you can only give 50%. You gave 100%. I was like, you right. I love that. So person versus person conflict, definitely one that everybody has. The adversity that we go through within ourselves, within our mind, within our hearts, within our spirits is like pretty serious. Like to know, to feel, to be, we struggle with all of it. We really do. And so like we're a 3-part person going on here, and we don't deal with ourselves at all in that way. So we'll talk more about these kind of conflicts, but I'm hoping that's helpful to you. And if you want to take action, Overcoming Adversity is out on my page, acornsandOaks.bhx.tv. And if you like what we're doing here, hit the bell, subscribe, tell your friends, and get notified when things are coming out. Help grow the channel. It is my pleasure to bring this stuff to you, and I will see you guys on the next video.